Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Rita Egidio, and this is Dream Warriors podcast. And I was going to do a little brief introduction to Amanda, but we found out that we have the same kind of background. So I just did want to jump on the call with you and start the conversation before anything. Amanda, nice to meet you. Thank you for being here. Give us a little introduction, who you are, what you do.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Amanda Cottrell. I am an elementary school teacher. I am also an author and an illustrator, and I have founded Art, Mindfulness, and Creativity, where my goal is to help empower people to live fulfilling lives through their own creative gifts. And because I believe everyone is infinitely creative, and we become super present when we have found that our creative gifts. And so we all have these gifts that we have to share with the world, and don't let anyone ever tell you that you're not creative because you can't paint or you can't draw, because there are infinite numbers of ways for you to be creative. And so that's my goal and my mission.
It's beautiful, because you are saying that, and it took me back in time. So I was born in Portugal. I grew up in Africa. My father had an amazing ability to draw and paint, and I always had issues grabbing the pen. So my position on my hand was never the correct one, and my handwriting is not beautiful, and I was always very traumatized with that, in special when I'm 41. So in special when you did need to go, when they called you to go and write to all the class, and they will see how ugly is your. It's so funny that we are talking about this, because it was such a deep trauma. Then I'm just realizing now talking with you. And I could never draw anything. But I remember one time I tried to put together a painting, and it really released me and gave me power. And it's like manual things. When you do it, it's like, I'm going to do a weird comparison. For me, it happens when I'm taking a shower, when I drive, where I'm doing the dishes, or when I'm knitting. It has this, it's like your brain rests. We are talking about your painting. Then you said you did with your daughter.
Yeah.
I never did understand anything about sacred geometry, and I'm really excited to tell you my experience, but I'm very curious to ask your experience with
sacred geometry.
Yes. How did you came across, and what do you know?
Well, I went through kind of like more of a spiritual awakening. I'd always been kind of spiritual, but when I went through a very toxic marriage and got divorced, I went to a retreat, and that was kind of the first time that I ever had anyone like really consciously open me up to some spirituality. And so then I started right after that drawing mandalas, because I love to draw and paint, and I like kind of just learned about mandalas, and then I started drawing them, and then I started getting interested into sacred geometry, and then I started researching it, and I bought books about sacred geometry, and I did all these mandalas with sacred geometry, and it was just like I found like this healing piece to it. And at the time I was teaching grade 3 in Alberta, and in Alberta in Canada, we in grade 3 we study India, Peru, Tunisia, and Ukraine. And one of the things I always try to tie art into my social studies and my science. And so one of the things I learned about India was that they actually do mandalas, and the purpose behind them is to go from the inside out. And so I would teach that to the kids. And as I learned about mandalas myself, I started teaching the kids about them. And then I started running art nights where I would do mandala paintings with people. And it was all about just like learning how to live from the inside out and set an intention behind the mandalas as well. And so I found that very, very powerful and healing for myself, because I would just spend hours working on these mandalas, sometimes days, like a few of my mandalas in my house, I spent like days and weeks working on. And it was just like my downtime to really get centered in myself. And it helped me through learning about my divorce and my spirituality. And then I became a Reiki healer, and
I'm a Reiki
kind of
healer.
gone from there. So I want to know about yours. What's your experience with?
Okay, so I have the cube of Metatron behind me. It's another. Okay, this is normally not the story that you want to tell little kids or very early in their life, but I found it super interesting. I grew up in Africa, but then I came back to Europe, and all my ties with spirituality were cut out or cut off. And I was not religion. I had no religion. I had nothing. Just a big faith on myself, and knowing then I had power on me, but then I was scared to use it. And since I moved to Mexico, where I am now, I have been working each time more and more with women like us who have gifts and who want to impact the world. And I did not do that introduction to you, but I help women to grow online, to find their tribe, to create their story, and I heal them through EFT and tapping as well. But with sacred geometry, Metatron was always a very, the few times that I had contact with some Reiki or some, Metatron came to me often. And I never did even know that this image behind me was the cube of Metatron. I even did not know that this was connected with the flower of life. I had no knowledge. I saw some people using, and I always really relaxed me to paint mandalas. But some months ago, I was in Playa del Carmen, and we came across a gentleman from the United States who was living there. And we had a very nice conversation, me and my boyfriend. And we are both coaches, both healers. And he did give us magic mushrooms for an intentional trip. So it was not a recreational one. We were in nature and we were on the beach. And to me, it came very strong. But I remember very well the magic that it was for me in a moment to the other, look up to the sky. And the full sky on top of me was like a dome. And the flower of life was the dome. So the dome was the flower of life and vice versa. In the same colors that you have painted there, and in basic in the same colors that I have here. And I never did, I was like researching, why do you see that when you are under flower, how do you call plants of power plants? And they found the connection between sacred geometry and a different conscience state. So I know many people don't even try it and they will never see it, but I saw it. And it sounds weird and strange, but it gives me such a peaceful feeling. Then everything on my house now have sacred geometry, not everything, but have sacred geometry. Did you, as a teacher, found the power of sacred geometry through, did change the energy of the kids?
When they're drawing and they're working, one thing I find with creating with kids is if you can bring art into it in some capacity and actually like not tell like the kids that are, like you said, like have trouble with if you give them different options on what they can do, the energy of the classroom completely changes when they're creating, especially when they're creating like mandalas or something like that, where there's that intention behind it. And I would give them like what different symbols mean from different cultures as well. And so they could put those symbols into their mandalas as well. And the energy really does change in the classroom. It's unbelievable. Kids are so amazing at what they can absorb and how their energy changes with other people and with certain tasks in the room, and becoming aware of that has been a journey in my teaching career as well. And I just think it's so amazing. I don't know if you've watched there's a Netflix documentary called Change My Mind, I think it is, and it's by Michael Pollan. He wrote.
Yeah, it's a new. I saw about MDMA and mushrooms, and I did not watch all of them. I found myself very interested in because of a podcast that he did some years ago when he wrote a book, and I need to say I did try microdosing because I could grow my own magic mushrooms. Did not went so well for me. I had no enough experience, and you need to have experience. You need to know what you are doing because it can go very wrong. But did they talk about mandalas and sacred geometry?
Not in the book, not in that movie, no. But it did have a lot of what you were talking about.
It's amazing because you can see the trees alive. You can see, it sounds ridiculous if you say it like that, but you are one with all, and all is one. And it's the most, and I can get emotional with saying this because it's the most beautiful feeling of love. Then I have kids, I give birth, I know the feeling of having your first kid on your arms or all the kids on your arms, but the feeling of being one with all and all with one is the most peaceful feeling and beautiful feeling I ever felt. And it's beautiful then we are all waking up to this, like why is cool to drink alcohol and drink wine on the end of the days? Yeah. And it's not cool to experience with different kinds of conscience with respect. And this is not a party drug. It's not because it can be very heavy as well. But we are going so far away from our topic. Tell us, so who is your tribe?
My tribe is people who want to help empower other people and through their creative gifts. Yeah. And so that is who I am trying to connect with across the world. I speak on a podcast or a talk show once a week out of the UK, and it's all on empowerment and different topics on empowering people's lives. And I just think we all have gifts to share, and there's so much good in the world, even though sometimes we get dragged down by things that are really heavy, especially with what we've been through the last 2 years. And I started speaking on the talk show probably 2 years ago when Nomza is her name. She started it, and I've been writing children's books I have 9 children's books out on Amazon. And so they're all, the first one actually was written after a meditation, and it was called It's Okay to Feel. And essentially my vision was just to write this book and have one copy in my classroom. And if it helped one kid, great, I'd done my job. And essentially I connected with different people, like not even intentionally. And they taught me how to upload my books onto Amazon. And I got my first book out to the world, like in 2017, I think. And then I've written 9 since then. And there's been a couple that were essentially like, one day I came back from a yoga class and I told my one girlfriend that's also a teacher, but into Reiki, and and learning about the chakras and everything. And I said, we're going to write a book and it's going to be called The Children's Guide to the Chakras. And she's like, I don't have time to write a book, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, we are. And so she came over for dinner that night, and I started scribbling down the start of the book. I said, this is the idea I have. And I started scribbling it down, and then I handed it to her and I said, okay, keep writing. I'm going to make dinner. And I started making dinner. By the end of dinner, we had the book written, and all I had to do was go and illustrate the pictures. And so I think like when you have an idea, sometimes there's like, you get like these sparks of inspiration and you need to follow through on them. And so if I could have anything to tell people, it's if you have a burning passion or some like spark of inspiration, then go through with it and follow it, because you never know what will happen. And don't take no for an answer, because if I had listened to her, we would never have got the book written. And I was like, no, we're going to write this, start writing. Here, keep writing. And then before dinner, like, it took us half an hour to write it, and it's actually my best-selling book on Amazon. So it's so interesting how things work out sometimes. And there's been other ones where I've come home from work and just been like exhausted by how the kids were treating each other or something, and I scribbled down a whole book in like 30 minutes. And then what takes me the longest time for them to get out is the illustrating process, because I illustrate them myself as well. And so that's something that I think that sometimes we think things are so big. And when I talk with my students about my books, I show them my first draft. They're literally like scribbled in a journal like this, like just jotted down in a notebook, scribbles. And then
I love scribble.
like,
I'm obsessed with notebooks, obsessed. All my creations, all my ideas came with me. I don't even think I read them. It's just a simple download process. And what is next for you?
Well, I want to start an Empower You Academy and run courses to help empower people on a variety of different topics. So some of them are going to be empower you, like kids, for helping kids with different things. But then there's a course I'm running in the fall called Empower You, and essentially it's like all of the research and stuff that I've done over the last 9 years of healing from a traumatic divorce, put into one like 14-week course. And so that's the first step in starting my courses. But I have this vision of collaborating with people across the world on an empowerment process for people, where there's a bunch of different courses, there's a school, there's a podcast, there's retreats. And I'm at the very beginning stages of all of that, but that's kind of where I'm hoping to go in. And I also want to start my own school, because I am a teacher. I have 3 university degrees. Well, I have a master's degree.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And so thank you. It's been a lot of work, but I do really think that we need to go back to some of the basics of letting the kids drive the curriculum and letting the parents have more say in what kids are taught. And so where I live in Canada, we have a curriculum for each province, and the only way I can see getting around the curriculum is by registering the kids in homeschool, and then essentially having a homeschool school. Because I see so much, there's lots of pod schools being starting up in Canada right now, where people are sending their kids to teachers who've left the teaching profession and registering their kids in homeschool, but then still sending their kids to a teacher that teaches them. But I still see the value in kids having more than just 10 kids in their class, or more than just 10 kids in the school. And so I really think that we can empower people, because like you said, you have some trauma from your childhood and from school.
I do. And my childhood is really interesting, because I was homeschooled the first 4 years of my life in Africa with my grandma, who was a blessing in my life, because my grandma had a love for history and and Portuguese and, all the juicy things then made me the person that I am, who am so in love for learning, and that I came from her. Then I went to a private school in Portugal. Then I went back to school with no walls in Africa. And so I had this mix between being a total alienist in all. Imagine I'm the only wild child on one side, and the other side, I'm the weird person who comes from Africa. And I had no a normal, I had that issue, but I don't know, I feel so glad because I feel all that bumps on the way has a gift for the flexibility to learn. Then your life, you can do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. I'm just realizing what is going to be my next step now. And I feel then this year was a very hard year of my life, probably the hardest one in my adult life, for sure the hardest one in my adult life. And I just woke up this morning and said, okay, what is next? And the ability, I think what we teach our children, whatever they are, our students, or is the ability of believing then a next exists, and you can do it different. My mom, I don't know if it was my mom. I like to say it was my mom. She died many years ago. But I remember to listen someone when I was growing up to tell me then, and I'll give you an example. This remote control here is the same than this remote control, and is the same than this remote control, is the same than this remote control. So looking for different perspectives from the same thing give you superpowers. And for me to have the ability to connect with people as you, where you are talking what you want to do, and I know I have tools that can help you to guide you to make this a project then is even more successful than if you did it alone, inspires me. I did create this podcast, and I meet with 90% women every day, 3-4 times a day, and that makes me happy. And see your background today was like, like a little butterfly on my heart, like, oh, I'm doing something right. So I want you told you had a difficult divorce. I had few. I want you to send a message to your younger self on that moment. What could you say to yourself on the moments that are more difficult?
Well, one of the things that I look at from now is that any trauma that I've been through has been a learning experience. So like you just said, you just lived through one of the most difficult years of your life. And whenever I come across difficulty, I always think to myself, okay, what is it that I can learn from this situation? What is it that I can take from this to help me grow and be a better person and empower more people through this? So even though I went through a very traumatic divorce and traumatic marriage, or abusive marriage, I'm able to help more people because I have had that experience. So one of my children's books is actually called Divorce is a D Word. Sometimes two separate homes are better than one, because it was to teach kids that if your parents are splitting, it's not your fault. It has nothing to do with you. It's your parents trying to essentially find the best version of themselves and live the best version of them. And we're all human, and we're all doing the best we can with what we have. And I think that's something that we all need to remind ourselves of every single day. We're all doing the best we can with what we have. And so if you can remind yourself, and then I also have the opportunity to learn and grow each and every day. because I think that's something that's super powerful too. So to my younger self, I'd say, like, don't worry, things will work out.
That is beautiful. You said the quote already. Can you repeat a nice one that you like, or repeat the one that you just shared some minutes ago?
That every day we have the opportunity to learn and grow, and each day is a new day. So we can start now and create a better tomorrow for ourselves.
Amazing. Why should people listen to this talk between us, me and you?
I think so that if people think that they're not creative, because I've had parents even say my child's not creative, and I just was like, what do you mean they're not creative? And then I was like, your child is like one of the most amazing, like, successful people I know on the computer, and they're only in grade 2. And so I said, maybe her creative gift is coding or doing something with technology. It might not be drawing and painting as we traditionally have boxed into creativity. That's not creativity. You all have creative gifts, and if you can get any message from today is to follow your passions, and that thing that you thought you weren't creative because it wasn't traditional, what people traditionally think of as creative, that's not what creativity is. Creativity is in everything that we have. It's in our computers, it's in our cell phones, it's in the development of software, it's in the building of buildings, it's in woodworking, and it is also in painting and drawing and those traditional forms of creativity as well. But our creativity is infinite, and so is yours. So that's, I think, why people should watch this, because I want everyone to know that they're infinitely creative.
Beautiful. I am going to say bye to everyone watching, and I'm going to talk with you. Thank you so much, guys, for being here on this podcast. My name is Rita Egidio. Don't forget to comment, subscribe, and send your love to us. We are here dreaming big, dreaming in a good way. As I said, I don't know if you can dream in a bad way, just nightmares, but live your dreams and make it happen. My name is Rita Egidio, and I will see you on the next one. Don't forget, Amanda, how can they find you?
You can find me on my website. It's www.artmindfulnessandcreativity.com, or it's also the same on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. It's all.
Can you repeat it again? Can you repeat again?
Yeah, art, mindfulness, and creativity.com.
Nice. Thank you so much.
All right.
See you guys.